You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, Cam Thomas lights up the Cavs as Brooklyn gets a much-needed win in Cleveland, while the Sacramento Kings yet again lose a winnable game at home. And what do you know? It's the Houston Rockets again. I am officially done covering the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to explain why on Let 'Em Know Kings United. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. Let 'em know, nation, you already know what time it is. Welcome to another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United, your Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings for now, and the Chicago Bulls post-game reaction podcast. I am your host, Carlo Weisberg. Thank you so much for tuning into today's program, and you can find Let 'em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all that good stuff. You can also find this show on my YouTube channel, NJHawk40. If you are watching this show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the like button on this video, hit subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when the next time Let 'Em Know Kings United goes live on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, and leave a nice positive comment down below. Give the show a follow on those platforms if you can, please. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. It is an amazing way to support the podcast, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to today's show. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning, a little bit of a viewer or listener discretion. There's going to be a rant. There's going to be a rant, there's going to be a venting thing, there's going to be a venting segment, but I'm not going to talk about it now because the first segment I'm going to talk about is the Cleveland Cavaliers. But when it comes to the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to rant. I'm not only going to rant, I am going to cook the living hell out of the Sacramento Kings because I'm pissed off. I am deeply pissed off about the Sacramento Kings right now. But I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers first and foremost. Another loss for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 120-101 to a Brooklyn Net team who is just in a complete collapse right now. I mean, they got rid of Jacques Vaughn as the head coach. They replaced it with Kevin Ollie, and we all thought that we all think that the Brooklyn Nets are not going to go anywhere this year. They're 3.5 games out of the play-in. They're still in the playoff hunt. Good win for Brooklyn. A much-needed win for the Brooklyn Nets. Do not get me wrong. Cam Thomas absolutely killed the Cavs, especially in that third quarter. He scored 29 points in 31 minutes. That third quarter was a big difference in this game. Not only Brooklyn outscored Cleveland 44-29, but every single shot that Cam Thomas attempted in that third quarter, 9 times out of 10, that almost went in. Like, it was going to go in every time he released it. Cam Thomas is just a straight-up bucket. I love the fact that he's playing in Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn's a team that is desperate for a rebuild. You know, they have been having a really tough year with the injuries and stuff like that. They recently lost Ben Simmons for the entirety of the season. I don't know why Ben Simmons is playing basketball, to be honest. He's too much of an injury-prone man. But with that being said, I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I really need to talk about Cleveland because this was a game that I think if you're a Cleveland fan, you should be disappointed. And I feel really disappointed in the Cavs right now because this was a game that you couldn't lose. And to me, the Cleveland Cavaliers just looked pathetic. Looked absolutely pathetic out there. I know there's a lot of injuries. There's no Evan Mobley. There's no Jared Allen. No, Jared Allen played. He was on the bench. There's no Evan Mobley. There's no Donovan Mitchell. There's no Max Strus. I get all of that. And no Dean Wade. He missed this game due to personal reasons. I get it. And I understand about the injuries. I get it. But this was a loss that you shouldn't have. And for Cleveland, I think this team was undisciplined. I think the Cavs didn't take Brooklyn seriously. They almost disrespected the game. Almost, because I think the Miami Heat disrespected the Washington Wizards. I'm going to keep it a buck right now. I think the Miami Heat should be absolutely embarrassed. But as far as Cleveland, this is a loss that you're not supposed to have against a team in Brooklyn that is really struggling, a team that's trying to fight for the play-in. This was a trap game for Cleveland. I mean, to be perfectly honest, this was a trap game, and Cleveland fell into it, and fell into it bad. Cam Thomas said this game, I had to get out of my comfort zone. Cleveland tries to take away mid-range a little bit, but with certain lineups, I can be a little bit more aggressive. He also had 7 rebounds and 5 assists, along with 29 points. Cam Thomas just straight up cooked the Cleveland Cavaliers. Straight up cooked. Actually, the Brooklyn Nets won this game in the third quarter as they outscored them 44-29. George Niang led Cleveland with 20 points. Jared Allen had 15 points and 9 boards, which fell half a game behind Milwaukee in the third place in the Eastern Conference because of this loss. Darius Garland had 14 points and 5 assists. George Niang said, we just never really got out of the mud. We never really seemed to get it rolling. And J.B. Bickerstaff said, our guys competed, and I'm proud of them, but at some point in time, you just run out of gas. The third quarter kind of broke our back. I really don't agree with J.B. Bickerstaff's assessment. I mean, when we had a 1-point lead at the end of the first half, I knew that this game could have either benefited Cleveland or rear its ugly hand. And unfortunately for Cleveland, it reared its ugly hand in the worst way. Because, like I said before, this was an absolute trap game for Cleveland. And in this point of the season, you have a golden opportunity to not only remain in the playoffs, as Cleveland is right now, but you had a golden opportunity to remain the number 2 seed in the East. Get a better matchup come playoff time. But with no Max Strus, no Donovan Mitchell, and no Evan Mobley, I think the Cavaliers are destined to have an epic collapse. Because I think in this game, the Cavaliers were not playing Cavalier basketball, to be completely honest. I mean, that third quarter simply won the game for the Brooklyn Nets, and give Brooklyn a ton of credit. They needed a win desperately after a tough loss against Charlotte the other night. They came to Cleveland and just simply stood on and took care of all kinds of business. Cam Thomas was an absolute bucket for them. Dennis Schroeder made a really big impact, 17 points and 8 assists. Nick Claxton had 16 points and 10 rebounds with a double-double, which built, and speaking of Brooklyn, a 26-point lead midway through the third quarter. The Nets only trailed a minute and 41 seconds into the game, all early in the third period. So basically, it was a wire-to-wire win for the Brooklyn Nets against the Cleveland Cavalier team, who is injury-prone right now, who is desperately shorthanded, and give credit to Brooklyn. They took advantage of the injuries to Donovan Mitchell, injuries to Max Strus, injuries to Evan Mobley, and they capitalized on them. I mean, that's all I can say. I'm not mad at Cleveland. I'm not like angry at them. I'm just disappointed at them. I'm just disappointed because I think this was a Brooklyn Net team that we could have beat, a game that we should have won, a game that we expected the Cavaliers to keep on rolling and keep on trucking along, keep on rolling to the second seed of the playoffs. Now Milwaukee is back in possession of the 2 seed. The Nets are currently 1-2 on a 6-game road trip that ends on March 17th against the Spurs. Brooklyn only plays one home game between the next 20 days, March 7th and 27th, on March 19th against the Pelicans, and there's just 3.5 games out of the final play-in spot. Cam Thomas said about the play-in, it says, if we want to get into the play-in, we just have to do it. That's all there is to it. I'm tired of talking about energy after games. Kevin Ollie was really impressed about Cam Thomas, saying Cam displayed it all. It wasn't just his scoring, he was contributing in many ways. We just want him to be a masterpiece on offense and defense. Just his toughness, just his resiliency. It means the world for us. And if you're Brooklyn, that's a huge win. That's a huge win for y'all. And you didn't win the season series. Cleveland obviously won the season series against the Brooklyn Nets, but this was a good win for Brooklyn, a confidence-building win for Brooklyn potentially. And if you're Cleveland, the good thing is you have a back-to-back tonight against the Phoenix Suns, if there is such a good thing. But this was a game that you should have won. And you fell into the trap tonight. 53% for the field for Brooklyn, 48% for the field for the Cavs. The rebounds were 40-31 in favor of Brooklyn. By the way, the Cavs shot 65% for the foul line compared to Brooklyn, 90%. That is another big difference in this game. The assist numbers were 33-25 in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. The steals were 8-7 Cleveland. The blocks, 4-3 Cleveland. The turnovers, 12 turnovers for Cleveland, 15 for the Brooklyn Nets. The fast break points were 15-9 in favor of Cleveland. The points in the paint were 40-38, but the biggest difference was a big third quarter for Brooklyn and the lack of making free throws for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cam Thomas, as I mentioned, he is just a straight-up bucket. 29 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 9-19 for the field. Dennis Schroeder had a big game, 17 points with 8 assists, 2 steals, 7-11 for the field. Nick Claxton, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Cannot forget about Mikal Bridges, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He also had 3 steals in the game, shooting 5 of 8 from distance and 9 of 14 from the field. As far as Cleveland, George Niang, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists to lead Cleveland in scoring. Karis LeVert, I don't know what's happened to him. I think he's in a slump with only 6 points. DG tried his hardest with 14. Jared Allen continues to be consistent with 15. Isaac Okoro with 11, 4 rebounds, assists, and a steal and a block. But like I said, this was an absolute trap game for Cleveland and a game that they should have won, and they just fell into it tonight. They fell into it. It's just that simple. Give Brooklyn all the credit, especially to Cam Thomas. He came in to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and the Nets got a good W on the road. Simple as that. But coming up next, I have a lot of venting to do when it comes to the Sacramento Kings. And those of you might agree with what I'm about to say, and I apologize in advance for what I am about to do, but we are going to do it when Let 'Em Know Kings United comes right back. We're back on Let 'Em Know Kings United, and before I get into talk about what do you know, another embarrassing home loss for the Sacramento Kings, 112-104. I just want to say on behalf of the entirety of Let 'Em Know Nation that we are sending positive vibes and prayers up to Rockets breakout star Alperen Sengun, who suffered a really, really bad injury because Alperen Sengun landed awkwardly while challenging a shot by Domantas Sabonis with under a minute to play in the fourth quarter. Sengun appeared to be in immediate distress as he left the court in a wheelchair after several minutes on the baseline with his hands covering his face. He had a right knee and ankle injury in this game, and It was just really, really bad to see. I mean, he took a really bad fall. His right knee bended up. I think his ankle kind of twisted. I don't really like to hear that, and I don't really like to see injuries like that, because here is the thing with me. Here's the thing with me, okay? I don't like injuries upon anybody. I don't care if it's my team. I don't care if it's the Rockets. I don't care if it's the Bulls. I don't care if it's the Cavs. I don't like injuries upon anybody, especially to a talented young man like Alperen Sengun, because this guy is an absolute stud. He is an absolute dog. He is an absolute breakout star for the Houston Rockets, and I'm just sad for him, man. I'm just really sad for him. I'm really devastated for the Houston Rockets because, like I said, it sucks. It sucks when injuries happen. It really does. But it really sucks when a breakout star and a underrated talent like Alperen Sengun goes down. Ime Udoka said after the game that he was getting an X-ray and an MRI on both his right knee and his ankle as of this recording today. But it says that it doesn't diminish the win in general. I think it was one of our best road wins of the season. He had a huge part of that. Sengun, who had 14 points prior to the injury, is averaging a career-high 21.2 points per game in his third year in the NBA. This guy is a stud. Van Vliet said, injuries are part of the game. We all understand that when we signed up, but it's always tough to see our teammates go down, especially the young ones who haven't really been through it before. So like I said, prayers up to Alperen Sengun. I hope the injury outcome is not as serious as it looked, but it just sucks for him. It sucks for the Houston Rockets. I just hope that Alperen Sengun is going to be okay, because he is an underrated talent in the league, and Houston can really use him going forward. So prayers up to Alperen Sengun. I hope I know more, and if I find any information, I will probably post an update about that, because I know a lot of you that are Houston Rockets fans that are listening to the show might not be interested in the Kings, might not be interested in the Cavs, might not be interested in the Chicago Bulls, but some of you might be from Houston, Texas right now listening to this show because I'm talking about the Houston Rockets. So prayers up to Alperen Sengun. I hope he's going to be okay. Having said all of that, what a win for the Houston Rockets, man. What a freaking win. 112-104 after another embarrassing, another pathetic, another disgraceful performance inside the Golden One Center for the Sacramento Kings. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Another winnable game at home. Another game against a winnable opponent. And then you go out there, you lay an egg, especially in the third quarter. You only scored 14 points? 14? In the third quarter? And then you find energy in the fourth? Like, what the hell? Like, what in the hell? What's going on here? I mean, Domantas Sabonis. I'm going to say it, and I don't know if any Sacramento King fan, and I don't know if anybody that is listening to the show is going to say it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Domantas Sabonis. I'm sorry that the Sacramento Kings are constantly letting you down. I'm sorry, Domantas Sabonis, that you are the only Sacramento King that is at the very least consistent all freaking year. All year you've been consistent, and since the turn of the year, since the start of 2024, this man has been leading the NBA in double-doubles. He's leading the NBA in triple-doubles. He is definitely in the MVP conversation, but media is not talking to him in that context. But that is another story for another day. 7 players finished in double figures for Houston, who have won 4 of 5 as they look to make a push forward a spot in the play-in tournament. Houston is now 4.5 games back of the 10th seed in the Western Conference. This was a monster win for Houston, a monster win for them, because in the second half especially, they were just lighting it up. They were lighting it up on offense. I mean, Fred VanVleet is just a stud. Fred VanVleet bet on himself in the offseason. He got the biggest contract in any non-drafted player in the NBA history, and he's been balling. He balled out with 22 points in this game. Jalen Green added 19 points for the Houston Rockets. Ime Udoka coached circles all over Mike Brown once again in the second half. And Mike Brown, let me get at you. You're supposed to be the coach of the year, right? You're supposed to be the coach of the year. You are supposed to be the guy who is supposed to be the best coach in the entire NBA. You are nowhere freaking near it. Defensively, I know you're trying to improve the Sacramento Kings defense. I know that. But the biggest strength of this team is offense, and you are taking that away from them. You are taking it away from the Sacramento Kings, and I do not like it. Defensively, how many times did we give Houston the lane so many times on ball screens? You don't even know how to defend ball screens. Personally, you are the worst screening defensive team in the NBA, Sacramento. I mean, if I gotta keep it 100 with you, you have no idea how to ice the screen. You don't know how to hedge a screen. You don't recognize and you don't see that if Fred VanVleet is going near to the sideline, a couple of times Fred VanVleet was at the sideline, you couldn't hedge, you couldn't ice, you couldn't force Fred VanVleet to the sideline, you couldn't allow Fred VanVleet to operate in the pick and roll. You just gave Fred VanVleet the lane all night long. Defenders lackadaisical in getting him backside help, not getting back in transition defense. I think the Sacramento Kings are lost with Mike Brown. They really are. And Sacramento got in on another bad side of the run. Houston made a really big run. I think it was 46-19, 46-20, whatever the case may be. But again, I don't really understand why the Sacramento Kings keep doing this, especially at home. You barely beat a San Antonio team the other night because you needed Domantas Sabonis to save your asses. Now you get to Houston, a team that you got embarrassed in games 5 and 6 in the beginning of the year. 5 and 6 at the beginning of the year. And then you get embarrassed again by scoring only 14 points in the third quarter. That changed the game. That is unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. De'Aaron Fox said after the game that maybe we're playing down to the competition. You damn right you are. Because if you were a good team, if you were a great team, Sacramento, you would take every single game seriously. You know why Boston and Denver are better than you? Because they're more locked in than you. You just assumed that you were going to win. And by the way, the Sacramento Kings played absolutely brilliantly in the first half. Brilliantly. Especially in the first quarter. They were pushing the pace. They were hitting their shots. They were getting stops defensively. And it was a physical game. Both teams were doing great in the physicality side on the defensive end. But my God, can the Sacramento Kings just learn how to be consistent on that end of the floor? Could Sacramento find a way to keep that same energy that they did at the end of the first quarter going into the second quarter and keep that for the final two? I mean, it's just inconsistent. It's just inconsistency. There is no intensity on the defensive end. And the offense, it's just pathetic. It is really pathetic. It really, really is. And Domantas Sabonis, like I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're playing with a team that has a bunch of inconsistent players. I mean, that is the most PG way as I could say it. Domas has been the true leader of the Sacramento Kings all freaking year. The Rockets grabbed control in the third quarter, going on a 13-0 run and taking advantage of 5 straight turnovers by the Sacramento Kings going into the fourth. Sengun had 8 points in the quarter, and the Kings held the Rockets to just 14 points on 4 field goals. De'Aaron Fox, 18 points, but he was held of 7 of 21 shooting. That is absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. Houston swept the Kings this season, also beating Sacramento in consecutive home games in November. The Rockets had dropped 4 of their last 5 coming in to the Kings on the road. Now they have won 3 straight on the road, a season high. Sacramento dropped to 7th in the West, entering the game tied with Phoenix for the last spot to avoid the play-in tournament. Sabonis said the Rockets were more physical than the Sacramento Kings, and you damn right, Houston was the more physical team. Domantas Sabonis said that's what we're going to see in the playoffs. It's obviously a good thing to play against a team like that, but we got to learn how to play against those kinds of teams and not just give into it. I think Sacramento is just throwing the freaking towel. I think Sacramento is not. They don't get it. They don't get it. They're never going to get it. They're never going to understand. I mean, Malik Monk, if he leaves Sacramento at the end of the year, I'm not surprised. I will not be surprised if this man named Malik Monk, who is the 6th man of the year, 6th man of the year, if he leaves Sacramento, I will not be surprised. And by the way, Malik Monk had the nerve to say that he doesn't like Sacramento King fans booing them in their home building. Play better! Play better! And then maybe the fans can earn your respect again. Just play better! Sacramento, you are better than this. You are way better than this. I'm seeing a team that is pathetic. I'm seeing a team that is embarrassing. I am seeing a team that offensively just sucks. Just sucks offensively. I mean, you only made 6 threes all game long. That is pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. And defensively, like I said earlier, you are not making improvements. I didn't see any improvements. I didn't see defending ball screens. I didn't see properly switching screens. I didn't see proper rotations because Mike Brown is an absolute travesty of a head coach. I didn't see that. Sacramento, you didn't want it tonight. You didn't want it. Credit to Houston. Because this was a big win for them. A big win for Houston to keep their playoff chase alive. But Sacramento, you made me so freaking mad. I'm so pissed the hell off that I never thought I would say it. But I'm going to say this right now. The days of Let 'em Know Kings United and the days of covering the Sacramento Kings on this podcast, on this feed, are freaking over. They're over. After this season, I am no longer going to cover the Sacramento Kings. And Sacramento, you earned that. You earned that because the last couple of games, you showed me that you are inconsistent. You showed me that you can't play a complete 48 minutes. You showed me that you constantly fall into freaking traps. Chicago, Miami, San Antonio to a certain extent. Winnable games. Now, you won San Antonio. I will give you that. But you played a pathetic game in that win against San Antonio. You only had one good win. It was against the Lakers. Pathetic. And I can't really root for a team that is inconsistent on both ends of the floor. Defensively, I think you're soft. Defensively, you are not physical. And offensively, I just don't get you anymore. I really do not get you. Sacramento, you have no culture. Sacramento, you have no standard. But you know what? Who does? The Miami Heat. The Heat have a culture. The Heat have a standard. And the Heat have a competent head coach in Eric Spoelstra. Even though the Miami Heat should be embarrassed. After losing a winnable game against Washington. But I'm going to cut them a little bit of slack because Miami knows how to respond. Worst loss for Miami, but they know how to respond. I am so freaking done watching or covering the Sacramento Kings. Now, I'm still going to watch Sacramento, okay? I'm still going to support the Sacramento Kings as a fan. But as a podcaster, oh, those days are over. Going into next season, the new name of this podcast will be Let them know Bulls in the 305. That's right. Going into next season, this will be the post-game podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Chicago Bulls, and now the Miami Heat. My dad told me the other day, cover teams that everybody is going to watch and everybody's going to root for. And shout out to my dad because he played a role in this certain change. So going forward, next season, the new name of this podcast will be Let 'em Know Bulls in the 305. And Sacramento, all I got to say is you deserve it. You deserved this podcast change. You deserved this loss. Another embarrassing at home. Another embarrassing loss against a winnable team inside the Golden One Center, who, by the way, is supposed to be the best arena atmosphere of the NBA, and it still is. But you keep losing to bad teams, you keep escaping to bad teams, and I can't get down with that. Sacramento, you are pathetic. You are pathetic. You are embarrassing. You are an absolute disgrace. If you get into the play-in, you're going to easily be a quick elimination. No mentality for the Kings. No mentality. Domantas Sabonis, I am sorry that you are the only leader of this team, but I'm going to call it what it is. This team is a disaster, and Domantas Sabonis is the only true leader of the Sacramento Kings. Houston shot 46% for the field, 45% for Sacramento, 44-42 with a rebounding edge for Sacramento. The assists were 24-23 in favor of Houston. The steals were 10-8 in favor of Sacramento. The blocks were 5-1. Sacramento, the points of the paint, 56-46 in favor of Sacramento. Fast break points, 15-10 Sacramento. But the difference was the big third quarter. You only scored 14 points in the third quarter. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. Fred VanVleet is a monster. 22 points, 9 assists, 2 steals, 4 rebounds, 5 of 8 for the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 10 of 10 from the free throw line. Jalen Green, 19 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 6 of 15 for the field. Alperen Sengun, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 7 of 14 for the field. But again, prayers up to Alperen Sengun. I really do not like hearing about an injury, but I hope this man is going to be okay. I love the fact that Cam Whitmore got into the game. He impressed with 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 10 for the field. But can I get an amen, Thompson? 13 points, 5 rebounds, 6 of 9 from the field off the bench. As far as the Sacramento Kings, the only person that deserves to be acknowledged is Domantas Sabonis. I mean, the only true leader of the Kings strikes again. 25 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 10-11 for the field. But the 9 turnovers, though, that is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable for Domantas Sabonis. I'm going to let him slide because he's been consistent. But if I see that again, I'm going to go off on him. Malik Monk is the 6th man of the year. 20 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals, 8 of 16 from the field. Good win for Houston. Big win for them, keeping their play-in hopes alive. And my days of covering the Sacramento Kings are just straight up over. They are over. They are done. And as far as why this is over, it's because of this outcome. Sacramento, you got what you deserved. This was another pathetic, embarrassing home loss, and you deserved it. You deserve this. I'm done covering the Kings. I'm really done with them. I'm not switching up. I'm done. That's going to do it for the final or soon-to-be final edition of Let 'em Know Kings United. I'm going to keep Let 'em Know Kings United going for the remainder of the season, and then come next season, it will be changed to Let 'em Know Bulls in the 305, just warning you right now. Until that time, you can find this show on your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and all that good stuff, as well as YouTube. Like this video if you're enjoying it on YouTube. Hit subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. Leave a nice comment down below. Give the show a follow on those platforms. Turn on your notifications, and give Let 'em Know Kings United a 5-star review. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my venting session. I really needed to get that out of my chest. I'm your host, Scarlett Weisberg. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next time for another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United. And remember, next season will be Let 'em Know Bulls in the 305.